Many thanks. Okay. Somebody's asking for an AI companion. Okay, so welcome to all of you from wherever you're joining, whatever time it is, of course, and that always differs enormously, whether you're having your breakfast in the morning or a cup of tea or something else to keep you awake. But what is common to all is that you are passionate and curious about all things data, yeah, or digital data, perhaps. And yet, what also couples you or brings us all together is that you have joined this global virtual event to contribute to or to find out more about this international community of data workers, which is a term I was introduced to recently, data aficionados, data lovers, or whatever you like to call yourselves, whatever words we can find, and the wonderful volunteer work that is done in this particular group. If you're joining for the first time, you're very welcome to the RDA community, the RDA family, as we like to call it. It's a very distributed but global community. And I hope as a first-time visitor that you find what you're looking for and that you have the opportunity, albeit a virtual event, to meet new colleagues and then to stay with the community on this wonderful journey that is happening. Of course, if you're a member of RDA for some time, I'd like to thank you so much for your support, your participation, and your dedication to the cause. Of course, I'm truly grateful for all of you. We understand how challenging it is to give volunteer time and to work in a community-driven organization, but the rewards are endless, yeah? And for those who are unable to join us live, or indeed this week, I'm sorry, I hope you get a chance to look back at the recordings. We make them all available for those of you who have joined us for the week as soon as we can, and afterwards for the community within a reasonable amount of time, as much as my wonderful colleagues can do. But you who are not able to join us, as well as those who are here, are really important and vital to the community and for the growth and the continuity of the Research Data Alliance. And our vision of researchers and innovators that openly share and reuse data across technologies, across disciplines, and across countries to address the grand challenges of society is very important in today's world. And we must continue to facilitate the building of these social and technical bridges that enable that vision, and always keeping in mind our fundamental guiding principles of the Research Data Alliance, which are openness, consensus, harmonization, that everything is community-driven, it's non-profit and technology neutral, and it is inclusive. RDA is a place where everybody's origin is important, where everybody matters, and where all voices are shared, welcomed, and listened to, irrespective of where you are in the world. Your voices are essential to bring unique perspectives to an open, neutral, and collaborative community. This is a place where everyone is welcome. Recent times, global events are forcing us to imagine all sorts of different scenarios and face realities that, sadly, our imagination would probably never have stretched to, or we probably only have thought about in a fiction. We're in an unknown place, irrespective of where we actually reside and work, though some places are harder than others. And these global events have repercussions everywhere. But history teaches us that in previous times like these, community and people have made the difference. People have provided the vital support needed to weather the storm, and sometimes they've provided the resources too. The Research Data Alliance, as always, is an open, a neutral, a global, and collaborative community-driven initiative, where the community works together to find pragmatic solutions to data challenges and to the many challenges of responsible data sharing and reuse. And then sharing these solutions with all so that anyone can learn, anyone can implement and optimize. It's what I call infectious generosity, Community that works for the benefit of others in an open, inclusive, and really, truly generous way. That is the power of people. Of course, all these people gather within the Research Data Alliance for their interest and involvement with data and/or technology. In fact, those two words are ever increasingly coupled and intertwined. Excuse me. And while the spotlight on artificial intelligence has increased this interconnection and more talk about data, which, though as we'll hear not in a little later, it's not as much as we would like. The Research Data Alliance itself was actually launched as a result of this sort of data technology interconnection by a group of people with significant vision and foresight. Back in the late 2000s, early 2010, they did see the need for technological solutions to manage the ever-growing tide of scientific data, to manage it for the public good. Of course, this group of people also predicted that the storing, sharing, and reusing of scientific data on a massive scale would stimulate great new sources of wealth, turning data into a type of infrastructure and transforming the enterprise of science so anyone, anywhere, and anytime could reuse and use data. They also predicted new products and services, new companies and jobs, new trade flows developing, and the competitiveness of nature being in play. And I don't think they were wrong. Data are hugely valuable and vitally important. And when posed the question recently, imagine a world without data, I found it really hard to do that. Just as I find it hard now to imagine a world without science or a world without research. And just as I think I could not imagine a world without the Research Data Alliance, the exemplification of the power of people, the power of data, and the power of technology, all under the same roof, or indeed under the same flag. The RDA is a place where you are all welcome. Thank you so much. And I'm now going to move on, having opened my little inspirational speech, to chat with Alexandra. So I would like to share a slide though, if that's okay. Let me just see if I can do that for a moment. I wanted to show you, like my RDA flag. What can you see now? The wrong one, right? Let me see. Can you see that?
We've got the notes mode, Hilary.
Yeah. Oh, no.
I can see it now.
Good now.
Yeah. So there, that's the flag of RDA. Don't you like that? Blowing in the beautiful wind with sunny skies to keep us happy. Okay, so I'll move on to the next section of our confirm. I'm just going to show 2 slides and then I'm going to go back so you can see myself and Alexandra while we have a chat. But in December 2023, the Research Data Alliance and the community in general lost a wonderful colleague, Sarah Jones. She was a member of the Research Data Alliance Council and the Technical Advisory Board, and a long time passionate member of the RDA family. So to honour Sarah's memory, and thanks to the generous donations of the community, but also her former her employer at the time when she died, Géant, an award was set up in Sarah's memory. And in June 2024, we opened a call for nominations for exceptional contributions to fostering collaboration in open science, which was something that Sarah herself did. The judges, we've got a very large number of applications, and the judges had a very hard time to select the nominee, but of course, or the winner. And at the last plenary, we had the fortune to have a little insight from the winner, Alexandra Lasic. And Alexandra has kindly joined me today. And before I stop sharing, I wanted to show you the picture of Alexandra, because we all have only ever met virtually so far. So Alexandra kindly sent me a picture of herself with the award so that I can show it to you now. going to stop sharing my screen so I can see Alexandra. Alexandra, there you are. So Alexandra, of course, Alexandra was selected for her impactful work, and they emphasizing her passion for open sciences. She also understanding, and you'll tell us more about it now, Alexandra, about the complexity of building repositories and her strong belief in the value of international collaboration. Alexandra is a PhD candidate and research assistant at the University of Belgrade Faculty of Philosophy and the Laboratory for Research of Individual Differences, and was one of the co-founders of REPOPSI, which I like the name. I love saying that name, the Repository of Psychological Instruments in Serbia. So, Alexandra, are you there? I see you.
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you good to go? So Alexandra told me she's nervous, but I say you're in a family, so think about that. Don't be nervous. We're here.
Yeah, new format. I've tried presentations, interviews, talks, but the fireside chat is new for me. So, but thank you, Hillary, for setting the mood with the flag and a nice talk and photos. So I'm feeling better now already.
Excellent. Very good. So, do you want to tell us just a bit so we can set the scene and then move on to tell us about the journey to winning the award? I gave a brief interview, but maybe tell us about yourself and how you got into the field.
Yeah, sure. So as you said, first and foremost, I'm a social scientist. I do research in psychology, but when thinking about it over the past 6 years, it actually felt like I've had two parallel careers, one as a researcher and one as a data worker, to use the term that you mentioned previously. So I have a bachelor's and a master's degree in psychology, and I'm currently finishing my PhD also in psychology, and I'm based at the University of Belgrade, which is in Serbia, which is also where I'm from. For those who might not know, it's a southeastern country in Europe. My research focuses on how people make health decisions. For example, whether they would decide to get vaccinated or not. And I want to see how that understanding of that can help shape policy and improve public health communication. And in my research, I use a mix of methods ranging from quantitative methods like surveys and experiments, and I combine it with media analysis. So that's in short about me as a researcher. But as I said, I'm also kind of see myself as a data manager or repository manager. So most of my work has been done through the LIRA lab at my university. And my first task as a new PhD student in 2020 was to collect and organize the various questionnaires we use in our studies. So my mentor sat me down and said, no one is going to take this task more seriously than you. It's boring, but it has to be done. So will you do it? And I said, yes, why not? So these are all different questionnaires and surveys that we regularly use in our research. We call them also research instruments, technically. So we use them to measure personality traits, different beliefs, social attitudes. So there's a lot of them. And I started working on that in 2019, end of 2019, and REPOPSI was launched in March 2020. So if you search for it online, it should be the first link that pops up, and the website is also available in English. So I think that I don't need to explain to everyone here why open access to research instruments and having them all in one place is important. But I also want to point out that these instruments are in Serbian. So they've either been translated from English to Serbian or developed locally, developed by local researchers to use in our context. So REPOPSI currently hosts around 270 instruments. We started at around 100, so I'm pretty satisfied with how much it has grown. And about half of these instruments are available in both English and Serbian. And anyone can access RAPOPC and use it, and anyone is free to contribute more instruments and more translations to it. So I want to point out that it's a unique resource and that it's not just useful for doing and teaching research, but it's also something that brings more visibility to our region, to Serbia, and to our researchers, which is important because we have been historically underrepresented in science, and like in many fields, psychology is still also largely dominated by Western researchers and English language content. So I think RAPOPC helps change that at least a little bit. And I also wanted to mention when it comes to my identities that I'm also a long distance runner, and actually yesterday I ran a half marathon, so I'm very happy that I can do this chat while sitting down, so I'm pretty tired. So. And that's it about me.
Well done. Wow, a half marathon. What's that? 20 something kilometers?
Yeah, 21.1.
Oh, wow. Gosh, well done for you. Yeah, I'm glad you're sitting down too then for you.
Yeah.
Did you, Alexandra, how long was this journey or this to RAPOPC? I mean, how long did it take for all of this?
Oh, wow. It's such a strange question because I never saw a board in my future. So it's strange to think about it as a journey towards the award. And it's actually, yeah, you saw it on the photo, but it's also behind me on the shelf, if you can spot it. So it's a big part of my life now. So of course, it all started with RAPOPC when it became publicly available in 2020. But it was just the beginning of the journey because for me as a manager of it and my mentors, because we didn't want to stop there. So of course we invited the community to add more instruments, but I also wanted to help RAPOPC gain more visibility. And I knew always that it wouldn't be very easy because we weren't a big and a well-funded project from a country such as the US, but we were a small scale, a grassroots effort. We had no initial funding. So it was sometimes hard to get the word out. And we also relied and still do completely on open infrastructure. So after the RAPOPC launch, we started working more on promoting it, and we used social media. I gave a talk at a conference, at a local conference based on a paper my team wrote. I organized workshops to train people how to use RAPOPC. And in 2022 was definitely a turning point when we managed to get a grant from the EUSC Future and the RDA. It was a call that these two organizations collaborated on. It was a 50,000 euro grant. And I'm really glad that I encouraged the team to apply and that I ended up leading the project. That's definitely the main reason, I think, why I was chosen for this award. And honestly, I remember receiving the email when they said you are the winners of the award, and I said, no, I can't do this, it's too much. And I just wanted to ignore it and lie to my team that we actually didn't get it. But yeah, it turned out to be a challenge, but it's also been a rewarding experience. And the RDA has proven to be very supportive and flexible during the whole project and negotiating the terms of the grant and everything. So the grant brought more visibility to RAPOPC, and we also had opportunity to build some technological solutions that improved its fairness and trustworthiness. And we also expanded the collection of instruments by training master students to search open access doctoral theses. So it lasted for only 9 months and it ended in July 2023. But I think the project was very, very impactful, and it's still very relevant for epilepsy. And after the project, of course, the work didn't stop. And actually, my work as manager with these new technological solutions became even more demanding. And now I'm, as I said, in the final year of my PhD. So I'll be handing over my responsibilities to 2 new PhD students. So my part in REPOPSI is coming to an end, but I'm really proud of what we've accomplished. Yeah, it's also a bit emotional. And in this, yeah, everyone is shocked, but I think it has had to happen at some point. And I want to mention a couple of more things that in my journey, open science journey so far. So I've also been active in other initiatives. I've served as a coordinator for the Open Science Community Serbia, and I've been, and still I'm an executive committee member of ABRIR. ABRIR stands for, it's an acronym for Advancing Big Team Reproducible Science Through Increased Representation. It's a non-profit initiative, and it brings together social science researchers from around the world, mostly early career. And our work focuses mostly on identifying and dismantling the barriers that we face. So researchers from developing countries, when we try to lead or participate in open science and global collaborations. And I've also shared a preprint, a working paper on the Huva app called Open Science in Developing Countries, a collection of practical guides. It's been, we've been working on it for the last couple of years. It's led by Chinese researchers, and I've contributed to it with my perspective on REPOPSI and generally open science work in Serbia. So feel free to check it out. It's on the Huva articles page or something like that. So yeah, I think those are the highlights of my journey. Most of it is REPOPSI, yes.
It's quite a journey so far. Well done. So yeah, well, that's sad to hear that you're going to REPOPSI, but you'll always keep an eye on it. It'll always be your baby, so you'll always keep an eye on it, I would say. You wouldn't be too far away from it. But you know what struck me, Alexandra, there when you were saying it is, and someone said it again in the same event I was at where they told me to imagine the world without data, was about that often things that, you know, you don't need huge resources to do things, and the things that are done or run with lower resources and budgets can often be the most successful. RDA is a testament to that, I have to say. But what you did with, you know, your 15,000, I think was the grant you said it was at the time, is really truly amazing. So congratulations also to your colleagues for that, but for you for leading the charge. Now, oh yes, what tips would you give to someone in a similar situation, or you know, some advice or things? Because I think often in RDA we're asked that, or you know, it's one of the good things about the Research Data Alliance that people love to share and help each other. So how would you share?
Yeah, I've been asked something like that before, and I think I always say something different, but at the moment I'm inspired to reflect on where I started and how I think it's also obvious from the things I've said so far that I didn't start this fully prepared. I was a PhD student in psychology and knew nothing about open access and repositories, and I didn't know exactly what I was doing. And REPOPSI also wasn't perfect from the start. It's not perfect even now, but it lacked a lot of things before the grant. So my main advice would be to not be afraid to do things imperfectly, and don't wait until you think you are ready. So you can always learn and improve as you go. And I think that I look back on how I felt during that first years. It did seem very intimidating because open science should be, by definition, accessible to everyone, but it's not always how it feels. Of course, RDA is an exception, definitely, and it's a very welcoming and warm community. But it wasn't the first community that I was introduced to. And I remember feeling intimidated by the people who already worked in this space of open science and open psychology research. And they seemed to have more funding, more experience, more knowledge. So I was really worried about being judged for doing things differently or for not knowing enough. So it's not easy, the thing that I'm recommending you do. But I believe you should do it, because that's how science and open science progresses. And if you keep going, it gets easier. And another thing to have in mind is balancing between the needs of your community and what already exists in the open science landscape. So think about what kind of open science service your community actually needs. So maybe I'm not advocating that every research group in psychology has something like RAPOPSy. Maybe it's not the ideal first solution for you. Maybe there's an existing platform, an existing repository that you can use or contribute to. So get familiar with, if you're starting out, get familiar with what's already out there, what's already available, but also consider the needs and the values of your community. So you should also think about how you want your data to be handled, and by whom do you want to give away that governance over the data to someone else. So balance the community and what's already there. So those are the two pieces of advice that I would give right now.
Well, thanks. You're probably not following the chat, right? But there's.
No, I'll catch up later. I
Oh,
can't.
don't worry, but
read now.
someone said congratulations, and he said it was in the beginning. You said, "I like the will you do it? Yes, why not? The path to the profession of a data steward." And someone else said, "I laughed at it. It's boring, but it has to be done." So you've touched on all the wonderful things, but your people are enjoying it. So I just wanted to tell you that. But like, yeah, it's not always glamorous, right? But it has to be done, and look where it takes you. Alexander, as a result of this award, you said before, and we see it there. Well, I know what it looks like. Some people won't. It's a rather tall, long thing. It's behind on the shelf. But what opportunities has it or hasn't it brought to you? I mean, since you received the award last November.
I think it has brought too much.
Oh.
So yeah, yeah, I'll try to expand on it. I'm very blown away by everything that came out of it, really, because usually when you win an award, it's a one-time thing. So people congratulate you, well done, and they move on to the next thing, you know. So I really like how the RDA and everyone is committed to increasing the impact of this award and keeping the word going until, I guess, the next recipient. So I like to call it, so far it's been like an open science tour that I'm on, because so first was my virtual acceptance speech at the RDA Plenary in November. That was really nice to be invited to that. And then I was invited to give a talk at the Open Research Week in February. It's an online event, and the slides and recording are online if you're curious. I also recently gave an interview to the magazine issued by the jaunt, I think,
Yeah.
organization. I practiced it. And more recently, I've been working on a column for Nature Careers about how rapopsy has shaped my career. So about this journey and advice I would give. And also, this is also a great opportunity. I think this is the biggest audience I've ever had for an online event that you invited me to speak at this virtual plenary. Also, so why I think it's too much, it hasn't been too much so far, of course, but I'm thinking whether I would have enough time if these activities continue with this intensity, because I'm wrapping up my PhD and I'm also exploring other opportunities at the moment. So maybe I would be more open to some paid opportunities, some short-term projects. So something along those lines. So if anyone has heard of anything, feel free to send me the calls or
Good. Right. Well, bear in mind then, we don't want to give you too much visibility. One of the things is it's a true part of the award. So for those who don't know, the first, Alexandra is the first winner. The intention is that every 2 years we will put out another call. So in 2026, so you're stuck with us, Alexandra, for a little bit longer.
okay. Okay.
I'm afraid, but we
Okay.
will manage the visibility. But the part of the award, of course, is to facilitate, we hope, you to attend the International Data Week in Brisbane in Australia from the 13th to the 16th of October, which is obviously the place where our next plenary meeting will take place, and as many of you would know, within the framework of a collaboration with CoData and the World Data System, where SciDataCon and the RDA plenary meeting come together, all under a 4-day event, which is generously and tirelessly hosted by our Australian colleagues, the Australian Research Data Commons. So anyway, Alexandra, we are hoping you will join us there in person. And not online. Of course, we hope that many of you will join us in person, but there will be some online participation facilitated. So yes, so we're hoping you are going to, but you did mention a little bit. Oh yes, a little call to action, as Alexandra does obviously. So you've heard the opportunity or the different activities she has done, and also, you know, we in the RDA, as was the spirit of Sarah, was very encouraging of early career of females and of, in general, community collaboration. So we want to maintain that spirit in her memory. It's, you know, a bit of the ethos of RDA, but we definitely want to. So if people think of an occasion or that wouldn't be too taxing for Alexandra, please do contact her. Because I think it's very important to be able to have places to share these experiences and to learn about them, to encourage others and be a bit of a role model, right, for others. Alexandra, you mentioned a little bit about, and then we're going to move on to sort of more technological questions, but you mentioned a little bit about RDA and, of course, the grant that you received through the EOSC Future and the RDA, I think it was Cascading Grant Project. What about in other ways, is there anything else that you think has been valuable? Though you did say that RDA has been supportive. I'm not looking for self-publicity. It's more, I think, to the point of perhaps explaining to people here how RDA can be, if you like, valuable to them if they haven't encountered.
I've recently also reflected about this on LinkedIn, and I was surprised to learn that this is actually my 5th RDA plenary. I wasn't always a speaker. Sometimes I just attended, and it's always proved to be useful. Even during the first plenary, when I couldn't really follow all of the sessions, it really paid off to stick with it and to use this opportunity whenever whenever you can, for networking, for learning about something new. And of course, the RDA offers grants like we've secured, but there are some other grants open at the moment as well. Of course, the award, think about whether you want to nominate someone or advocate for someone for 2026. And I also said that RDA really feels like a very welcoming place, and I really wouldn't be here if I didn't really feel that truly, because I've been to some other places and communities, and I have no problem about leaving them if something feels off, or like they are not really accepting of different voices. It's really great, and I really felt seen when Matti and Nigella, who were former RDA staff, nominated me for this award. I was really blown away by that, to be acknowledged in that way by someone who's not in your organization. And I think also something to explore are the different groups in the RDA, especially I think coordination groups are more suitable for newcomers, like the RDA Ambassadors Coordination Group that I'm a part of. You can explore it and join it. We have monthly meetings where we share our updates and share resources and just exchange ideas. So it's even if you don't have any pressing technological maybe problems, there are other spaces in the RDA that you can join too. So I also think that Hillary can also highlight this benefit of RDA, and maybe you can tell us about an initiative, because I know that other projects, not just REPOFC, benefited from the RDA. So what would be the first success story that comes to mind, or an example when the RDA made a difference? How would you sell RDA to someone?
Oh, I have to sell RDA to people all the time. It's really, and it's a different thing depending on the crowd I'm talking to. But yeah, I suppose that's a good question. Thanks for flipping that to me. I suppose that I can think of different ones, different contexts. Someone reminded me the other day, the data schools that are run now they're celebrating 10 years. They're a collaboration. They started as a group in RDA, as a collaboration between RDA and CODATA, doing this data curriculum. And now I can't even remember the numbers, but like sort of doing these 2-week intense training online and in person a lot. Courses to understand for researchers and things, particularly from underdeveloped areas, right? Or under-resourced areas, where and introducing notions, of course, of data stewardship and data curation into their work. And so it's been highly impactful, and when you see the numbers in the map and all that, where they go around the world. I suppose another one would have been, to me, it was just like a bit what I talked at the beginning, the power of people. The only time we've really ever called people to action was in COVID, because the European Commission said, please help, you must be able to do something for us, with around data, recommendations for data and things like that. And, within 6 weeks, we had produced a phenomenal amount of work, with 600 people signing up to support it and driving it. And Sarah, among many others, was actually one of the drivers. And that was just an unbelievable, the power of, community and volunteer spirit. So I think there are many, I try to use cases to show people, but it's so broad, RDA, it's so broad, and there are so many different things that that the community works on. It's often hard to capture them all, and some stories resonate with people and others resonate with others. But yeah, it's been, It's quite, I mean, I think also there are things that you know, right? Because people cite it in publication or they tell you about it, or we have adoption stories. But sometimes it's what you don't know. I mean, and it's hard to capture that, the power and the impact that RDA has, because of course everything is free and anyone can join in, and you can just access the work that other people have done and made available. And it's very difficult to capture that too, and to understand, though I always love to get stories or hear stories. So if anyone has stories that they know where RDA has been impactful in one way or another, even sometimes, for making connections like now, Alexandra, I hope that this furthers your career and many other people's. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's really really a really powerful community. Yeah. So I'm going to skip on because we're going towards the next session now, and I'm going to ask Shalini to come into the connection, but I'm going to ask you one more question, if that's all right, Alexandra, because
Sure.
we said that this is the, and you can always flip the question to someone else if you don't like it, but data for emerging technologies is the theme of the plenary that we are at. So I was wondering, would you have any thoughts on data or emerging technologies? I won't use the AI long word, but and for research, or have you any thoughts or ideas around that, or are you indeed using it in any way?
I'm only using it for some everyday tasks, nothing complex, so generative AI like ChatGPT. But I've also noticed more researchers are using it if you think back to RAPOPC and psychological measurement tools, that more and more researchers are using it to actually construct questionnaires and survey items. And I remember being surprised by it when I heard it at a conference last year. But I think it's potentially, this use is a problem because there's already an overproduction of constructs and instruments in psychology. I can link, I don't want to go too deep into this now, I can link a paper on this fragmentation of psychology on Whova. So I think while definitely these tools can streamline some processes like creation and translation of research tools, we also need to think whether we want to do it just because it's there, because it's not only a question about whether we can do something, it should also be a question about whether we need to do it. That's one of my concerns. And the other one, I'm also eager to learn more from the technical side of things and how I could apply, for example, language learning models to data analysis or something like that. But also, while I'm curious to learn more, I also have some concerns. So the other one would be whether we would at some point, or whether we are already facing an inequality in access to AI tools, because it could be that some institutions and some researchers would have more opportunities and more funds to secure access to AI. So I think that RDA can also play a role in both of these. In solving both of these barriers, in providing more some sort of best practices, training, maybe funding opportunities. So I'm definitely looking forward to learning more about this during this meeting and during the entire week of the RDA plenary.
Thanks, Alexandra. We're going to finish on that, because hopefully Shalini can answer some of your questions for you and the others that have them. But I really want to thank you, Alexandra, because I know you were nervous, but you were wonderful. And it was so nice to chat to you. I wish we were in the same room on talking to each other. Hopefully, and we will meet in Brisbane. We've never actually, well, we have met in person in the past, but not since you won the award. Congratulations again. And thank you for putting up with all the requests that we have of you. And I'm going to pass over to, but please give you a virtual round of applause, please, to Alexandra for her time with, and particularly for your work in open science and supporting and fighting through. Because sometimes, as we say, it's quicker and faster to do it in a different way. It's not as easy. Shalini.
Thank you.
It's over. Thank you so much, Alexandra. So now, as I said before, Shalini is going to give you a whirlwind tour. We haven't quite named it, right? The year of AI in RDA. But for some reason or another, it may end up being like that. We have been very fortunate to have Shalini come and work with us for a period of time, taking over for temporarily for Connie while Connie was off on maternity leave and has come back. Shalini stayed with us for the moment because, of course, as I said very briefly when I opened, is that she is actually an AI expert and the co-founder of her own AI company, Clearbox AI. So who better than to take the stage and bring us on the AI journey that may or may not involve RDA and data. Let's over to you.
No, it's definitely a may, and it will, and it is. Hilary, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's an honor for me to be with you again at the plenary session of the VP24. And thank you, Alexandra, for actually making, you gave me a great segue, because this in this 25 minutes of speech, what I want to do is try to convince all of you why RDA and the community of RDA is very well positioned to tackle the technical and social challenges that Alexandra just mentioned. So let me try, and I hope you will. Let me share my screen. Yes, I hope we agree or agree to disagree. Do you see my screen completely? No, this is not the one I wanted to do. Yes, there you go. So today I want to talk about the value of the Research Data Alliance for Artificial Intelligence, and I'm going to talk about the rationale and also the kind of activities we are doing now and what we plan to do, and how you as a community would be the key strength in tackling these wonderful opportunities and challenges of AI. As we know today, whether you like it or not, artificial intelligence is everywhere. And a couple of days ago, you might have noticed also in your WhatsApp, you might have gotten a Meta AI agent without your permission or without your knowledge. And they are integrating AI into every walk of our life. So it's there to stay, good or bad, a lot of challenges, useful or not. So given that, the reason why AI is being involved everywhere, and the massive amounts of investments that are going into it, the dialogues around it and the buzz around it, is not for any simple reason, because there's a massive prize attached to it. So by 2030, the global GDP, the gross domestic product, is expected to be boosted by 26%. That equates to about $15.7 trillion. So $1 trillion is 12 zeros after one. So it's 1,000 billions. So this is the massive amount of economic potential that AI is expected to generate in the next few years. And this economic impact might not be equally distributed around the world. We have two massive players who are driving this impact. So what happens to the rest of the world is also unknown, and that's also a key challenge. And it's the same. The one before I showed you was from PricewaterhouseCoopers, and this is McKinsey. It's also showing similar projections. So the economic prize is massive. So that's why everybody is paying attention to this technology. Governments, public, private enterprises, everybody is investing a lot in AI, and we need to pay attention. Outside the economic price, of course, the most important thing we need to be talking about, what is AI doing for research communities, and what's happening. And it's not just all about the money, but also AI is also for good. And you might have noticed that, in 2024, the Chemistry Nobel Prize actually went to a person who never studied chemistry, that is Demi Hassabis, who is actually a co-founder of DeepMind, who did not do anything in chemistry or biology, but he actually invented, or one of the inventors of AlphaFold, it's actually an AI model that's able to predict protein structures. And that was a very big problem in biology, apparently. I don't know much about biology, but I know the problem of how the prediction works. And that took biologists, years to figure it out, and AlphaFold managed to do it. And interestingly enough, AlphaFold is openly available. Researchers are able to use it, and now AlphaFold 3 has come out. It's openly available, but if you want to run it, you need massive computational infrastructure. So, and again, for clinical trials, so AI is being used to accelerate clinical trials, from study design to patient recruitment to a lot of aspects. AI is being used to, make this process faster, more efficient. And in crop and food science, so we have AI, which we call it precision agriculture. So basically using, a vision and also optimization algorithms to give the right amount of pesticides, the right amount of water to make food production more sustainable, reduce food waste, a number of use cases. I mean, I'm going to share the slides with you. All the links are there related to these studies, so no problem about that. And then, of course, we talk about the negative impact of AI in terms of energy required to train it. On the flip side, on the other side, we also have AI used to actually outline the icebergs. So basically, you have satellite imagery, and it's really difficult to understand which part of it is actually icebergs or not. And we have research from the University of Leeds that talk about deep learning algorithms that are so much faster at understanding where icebergs are in remote parts of the world and where are they releasing water. In that way, they can model the climate much better. And of course, we are not just talking about these massive scientific advancements, but also in everyday use. And this is a survey, I read it, it came out in February 2025 by Wiley, the publisher, about how researchers are using AI in everyday use. And just like Alexandra said, many of them are using it for writing assistance, summarizing, checking for their grammar or translations. And also, interestingly, already now they're using a lot for data processing, for collection, processing, visualization, reviewing, trying to get information, and trying to incorporate them all in their data management workflows. So, and this is a survey of more than 5,000 researchers from 70 different countries across all disciplines. So, even though when we say AI, RDA is not like it's technology agnostic, obviously, but if a technology is across every single discipline, we need to be paying attention in terms of how this is going to affect research workflows, reproducibility, data sharing, you name it. So even if today the researchers are maybe using it for limited purposes, and they might be going into doing other things, including winning a Nobel Prize using AI, the attitudes and expectations of researchers, again, echoing what Alexandra was saying, is that everybody would like to improve their skills or try to work on new things. And more than 80% of the researchers in the next 5 to 10 years either think that it's extremely important or at least important to learn AI skills and incorporate them into their research workflows. And this is also something we as a community need to be paying attention, that 80% of the researchers might end up using all these tools in their whole research workflows in the very near future. So it's not an exaggeration combining these economic, let's say, the AI for good, and also, let's say, the percolation of this technology into our everyday use, that it could be the emerging technology. It is probably the emerging technology of the century, because it's transformative across every discipline, and it's driving innovation, also disruption sometimes, if I would say, across every discipline. It has not just economic impacts, but it also has a serious ethical and social impacts. We talked about inequalities. We talked about, who has access to these technologies. And so there are massive opportunities as well as risks. So we have to focus on both. So how do we make sure that such a powerful technology can be used for good while dealing with the risks to avoid pitfalls? And as we know, artificial intelligence, as we know, it's not just generative AI. Generative AI is what most of us are aware of. We use it every day, ChatGPT, Gemini, you name it, Claude. But AI is beyond generative AI. You have machine learning, which does very specific tasks very well. It's good at computer vision, detecting objects. It's, NLP. You have even, linear regression can be considered artificial intelligence. So there are a lot of umbrella of technologies, but irrespective of which technologies you're using, as of today, obviously generative AI is ruling the roost. In any way, the three main components that make them happen, make all of these technologies work, are a combination of computing, massive amounts of data, not just massive amounts, but good quality data, as well as algorithms. So we are in a phase and a period in history where all these things have come together. And also for RDA community, I want to remind again that all these components of computing, data, and algorithms and infrastructures are all things that you do day in and day out, and all of these together are the ones that are running AI. So, and most importantly, since we are Research Data Alliance, I want to focus on the problems that are going towards one of the biggest challenges of AI. Also, in terms of making sure we have the innovation right, is not everybody has good quality data. Either when they are training their models, they either have very little data or the quality is not so great. The costs are high. Collecting data, curating, sharing, they're all very expensive. Accessibility can be because of the accessibility of data because of lack of infrastructure, or it could also be lack of, because of silos, a number of reasons. And then you have the ethical aspects of data protection, using, privacy-friendly data, reproducibility, bias. All these can create and carry on into AI models, and they could create a massive amount of technical debt, as we call it, in terms of performance. And if we don't have good data, the outputs are bad, garbage in, garbage out. So actually, if you look at one of the key challenges when we look at the surveys regarding people who are using AI day in and day out, who have a big level of maturity, especially in generative AI technologies, they name data as one of the key challenges for making sure that this innovation works. So data, it's not technology, it's not talent, it's not adoption, it's actually data. If you look at the first graph, that is for mature users. They think that one of the biggest challenges to make it work is data, and of course the other concerns are it makes mistakes, there are intellectual property issues, energy use, there are a number of ethical concerns, but if we talk about all of them, we'll need a few more days of talks, of course. But today, focusing on data, good quality data, availability of data, standardized data is extremely important. And this is why I think RDA's vision and values in terms of building together both the technical as well as the social bridges to deal with these kind of problems come very well. So just reminding of RDA's values, of our mission to build these bridges, comes very much the reason why we think RDA is the value for of RDA for AI is immense, because we are a global community. We are neutral, we are multi-stakeholder, we have deep community expertise across all disciplines in data. Like we said, every discipline has AI applications. And I'm not going to name the names of the groups in RDA because every group can contribute in their own way in terms of best practices, standards within their disciplines for the AI use cases in their disciplines. We have bridge between policy, technology, ethics. Many of our groups work at an intersection of all of these things. We have a proven community-driven record of providing outputs and best practices for all data-driven fields. And AI is the first data-driven field, in my opinion. And that's why, given this, maybe it was very obvious for me from the outside when I looked at this, but I just wanted to rally everybody to see that, you have got this. And that's why we wanted to kickstart these initiatives, given these important technology that's going to transform our lives, research, society as we know it, to kind of kickstart a set of initiatives to involve the community and start the discussions and how RDA could work towards, making sure this innovation works for everybody and handling the risks. So that's what I'm going to tell you a little bit about what we have done and what we plan to do as well. So starting in 2024, we kicked off these, given this rationale, we kicked off pilot workshops in 2024. So it was really to understand, test the waters of what our stakeholders are thinking about which are the focus areas that RDA could focus on to deal with the grand challenges that AI poses us. And so we had an hour and a half workshops. It was not recorded. It was mostly attended by our organization assembly and funders forum members, together with 3 RDA groups, which were already working on some elements of artificial intelligence. And we had, even though it was kind of a focused group, we had 88 registrations from over 21 countries. That's, again, the beauty of RDA. We can talk with global experts on important topics. And then we, the key insights that came out of the workshop was that we should be also, as a community, looking at, different focus areas. And from this particular workshop, 4 focus areas came into focus: sensitive data management, data protection, and confidential computing, data readiness for AI. How is the quality of AI, the fairness of data is going to affect the AI performance? So we talked about that as a focus area. And then the infrastructure, not just the technical infrastructure, but also the people infrastructure for making sure we have trustworthy and responsible AI, and of course, bridging the technical and policy implementation gap in AI. And the report and the summary are available in our website. I'm going to also share the links with you in this presentation, which will be shared. And we had, you see a few familiar faces from our organization assembly and funders forum members. And if you scroll down, you'll also see the co-chairs of our groups who were part of this. And continuing with this, we also had requests from the feedback form that we would like to also see what researchers are actually doing in artificial intelligence currently. What are the use cases? What are the challenges? What are the opportunities? So we continued working together, and the next series of events that we conducted was called AI in Action. So we wanted to show what are the current themes, not just in one field, but in diverse research fields, from biosciences, health, engineering, humanities, and agronomy. And the idea was to discuss the opportunities and challenges and the future directions for AI within our RDA community, and also to kind of kickstart a platform for knowledge exchange, to kind of discuss about all these challenges that we talked about. And it was amazing because in February 2025, it's just just over a month ago, we had these events. We always do it twice to accommodate our global audience. One time is always for Europe and America, and the other time is for Oceania. And we had topics related to reproducibility in life sciences, generative AI in AI software, high performance computing, reproducibility in medicine, using AI in digital humanities, AI for research qualifications, and remote health equity, geosciences. And not just the topics. If you look at the speakers, we have speakers from so many different continents, showing their expertise and their willingness to collaborate and speak on these important topics. And again, the attendance and feedback was impressive. We had 266 participants from 36 countries, and it's very special. We need to understand that we're able to attract so many different perspectives in one session, and we are able to have these discussions in an easy and a community-driven format. So again, the insights that we got from these February workshop was that we need to redefine completely what reproducibility means when we do AI-driven research, because my prompt and your prompt might not produce the same results, or how we look for data sources, how we document our protocols, and how are we going to share our data and our models, not just the data. Now the models are also important in terms of reproducibility. So how is this all going to happen? And this was a great discussion, and we talked about ethical and privacy concern used in research classification, and we talked about how do we validate these models, how do we build community standards for AI and data governance. And I'm very glad that these sessions were recorded, and all the recording slides and reports of everything that has happened is available for your review and feedback as well. So they're all there on the website. So continuing again this conversation, so we are not stopping just at the AI in workshop, and we've also now teamed up with Microsoft Research, again, because in this field, it's so important to also engage with not just public sector stakeholders, but also private sector, because research is also happening massively over there as well. So one of the next steps we're also doing is to actually bring together stakeholders from RDA, from the industry, and try to discuss how these things are going forward. And the context is that we are going to have a community dialogue on 2 emerging topics. And in this context, Microsoft is also entering RDA as an organizational member, where we're going to talk about quantum computing and high performance computing, because infrastructure is an extremely key topic, and quantum computing is also going to change the way we're going to process and analyze data. And then we are also going to talk about what are the data and skill readiness we need to deal with the AI innovation. And we're going to have 2 roundtables in May and June, and we expect 2 times 2. So we have 4 roundtables, 2 on each topics. Again, we always do this to make sure that we have global representation in terms of time zones, and we'll have experts, about 12 expert keynote speakers who will be speaking across these roundtables, and each session is expected to have 25 to 40 participants, very curated in terms of their expertise and their stakeholder background, and to make sure that we can get kind of 2 white papers from these insights, also to understand how we need to move forward as a research community. So the next steps outside these events is that we want to, also call on the community, because you have massive expertise and you can contribute in so many different ways. But the Secretariat is happy to kickstart these efforts, and then the community we would love the community also take the AI discussion forward. And my very amazing colleague Connie will also take over some of these activities in terms of proposing a birds of a feather session at the end of in autumn during the IDW 2025. And then follow-up workshop series on all the topics that we have discussed also, which were also highlighted in the feedback sessions, like data readiness, sensitive data, reproducibility, AI in social sciences. And then we're going to have a dedicated RDA and AI web page to centralize resources to make sure that we also will feature all the expert speakers we've had during the events, so we can create a nice one-stop shop for you to look at all the AI resources and RDA initiatives in the topic. And of course, we would really like to have a community of practice and attract community initiatives on this topic, because this is really an essential topic we should all be working on, and we are really in the best possible way, best possible position to do so. Because I want to also spend 1 minute here on this definition before the reason why I think RDA community is so well positioned, because what we want to have with AI is actually trustworthy AI, responsible AI that will work for everybody. We should not just say, I don't want to use it because I'm scared of it, because okay, I want to use it, I want to innovate with it, but how do I do it? So this is actually a principle from OECD. OECD has a policy observatory on AI. It's very influential because most of the governments and policymakers look at OECD AI principles to make regulations. For example, the EU AI Act. The definition of artificial intelligence was taken from the OECD AI Policy Observatory, for example. So, and they have a list of AI principles, and one of their AI principles say that the way we need to invest our efforts, this is both economic investment and also effort investment, is that governments or policy makers or institutions should consider long-term public investment, encourage private investment, not just in research and development, but also in open science. We need to include interdisciplinary efforts to spur innovation, not just for trustworthy AI, not just in technical issues, but also social, legal, ethical, and policy issues. And we need to make sure that we invest in open toolkits, open data sets. We need to respect privacy and data protection. And we need to make sure that research and data is free of harmful bias and improve interoperability, use cases, and standards. And this really looks like a definition of Research Data Alliance for me, honestly speaking with you. So I hope you agree that in terms of how we move forward with trustworthy AI, we as a community, we as a group of experts working on data, in, be it reproducibility, be it interoperability, be it equity of open science, the whole concept of open science, transparency. I think we are in a super important position that we should be rallying together and working on all of these aspects related to AI to make sure that whatever innovation and impact we are going to get from this technology, which seems to be a big prize, apparently, we should be making sure that this big prize is done in a trustworthy manner and it's available to everybody with the way that you can do in terms of data, because it is a data-driven technology. And nowadays, with open weights models that are being available, the importance of data becomes even more essential. So what I want you to do is take a moment to read this principle, because this is really feels like it's written for RDA. And I would like to conclude by just saying one thing, that we are, again, a truly global community with about more than 15,000 people across 145 countries. And we are here to, again, share and reuse data across technology disciplines, countries, to address the grand challenge of society. And AI is both a grand challenge and a grand opportunity. So we should definitely be working on this. And finally, in God we trust, everybody else bring data. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Shalini. Thanks so much for that. Gosh, your whirlwind tour of what's going on. I'm going to pop in the chat, actually, because something I prepared earlier, that this week, of course, as this is our data for emerging technologies, that's the theme. Thanks also to you and your help. We have 2 sessions, so I pop them in there so that you know. 2 sessions, right? The plenary sessions are dedicated to different aspects of AI, if you like. First one is the breakout session moderated by Lee Wilson, and that'll be tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, though, depending on where you are. The 9th of April. And then we also have Fair Care in AI and building impactful things. I'm going to see if I can cut that in, but yeah. Okay, and that one. And some of the speakers indeed are those that were featured in our AI for Action workshops, right? And they, so it's a chance also to hear different perspectives because they touched on some of them, which is one of the reasons why we invited them to talk here. So Alexandra says she's feeling a bit better about the future of AI now. So thanks for that uplifting talk. Right, I don't see any questions in the chat, but anyway, Shalini, even though she will continue working with us on our collaboration, as she mentioned, with Microsoft and the roundtables. The roundtables, as you said, but I'd like to reiterate it. There are, they will be invitation only for just the reason that we need to obviously try and have a smaller number of people to collate these white papers that will be published, and they will be public. So just to be very clear, they will be published by both. But and Jonathan is reminding us, I loved this, by the way, that Gen AI killed the PID star and the impact of AI on PIDs and PID systems. As many of you will know, the Secretariat invited you to put attractive names into your sessions this year, and some people have come up with really amazing ones, including that. So if we had a prize going in Hoover for the best and most attractive session name, that one is probably somewhere up there. So thanks very much for that, Shalini, again, and for all the work that you do. And if anyone has any questions to Shalini, you know that she's one of the members of the Secretariat, so name.surname@rda-foundation.org. Holly's going to be singing that. Right, so I mentioned at the beginning, we had a few different components, if you like, to this event, but moving on to the last segment for the last 15 minutes that we have together, I would like to invite Ryan O'Connor and Rob Quick to join us. They are going to tell they will tell you better than I, but a quick intro. Both of them are leading activities around facilitating. Really great to hear that some of Alexandra's work, but other activities in the community are as a result of the facilitation that both the European office and the US office have provided. And now you're going to tell us more. So I'm going to pass the floor to you. Is it you, Ryan? Are you going first and then Rob?
Yeah, I guess so. Rob, does that
Yeah,
work?
that's good. I will depend on a little bit of your description of Tiger, so I don't have to re-describe it a second time. So please go
Okay,
ahead.
perfect. Sounds good. Brilliant. Okay, hi everybody. So first what I'll do is I'm going to put a copy of my slides into the chat there. I know I should have shared these with the organizers in advance, so apologies for not doing that. Literally just finished them about 15 minutes ago. In any case, I will share my screen. So I'm sharing Firefox, haven't I? Cool. And my slides. Can everyone see slides in presentation? Cool. So, hello everybody. Thanks again, Hilary and the organizers for giving us this slot at the end of the opening session to kind of give a brief update of the various activities that are taking place within RDA around facilitation. So my name is Ryan O'Connor. I am working with RDA Europe. I am the senior facilitator with the RDA Tiger project. So basically, I'm just going to give a very quick update on the RDA Tiger project and focusing mainly on the facilitation service that we've been providing for the last 2 years, or 2.5 years now. So for those of you who don't know, so I'm just going to give a brief update of the RDA Tiger project itself. So this is a Horizon Europe funded project that has been running since the start of 2023. It's ending at the end of this year, so on December 31st, 2025. So this is being delivered by ourselves at RDA Europe in coordination with our colleagues at our colleagues CoData, who are based in France, DANS, who are based in the Netherlands, and the Netherlands eScience Centre. So essentially what this project is doing is looking to provide various different kind of support mechanisms for RDA working groups in particular. So we're doing that. We've kind of grouped them into 4 sort of overall sort of buckets of services. So the first of these is the in-kind support. So that includes the facilitation service, which I'm going to describe in a bit more detail, the communications, the output support, and the landscape and engagement services. So these are support, sort of in-kind support that are available to different to all RDA groups, working groups. We also provide 2 kinds of financial support. So the first of these is the engagement of external experts. So this is part of our sort of open call process. So we provide smaller grants for use for working groups who want to essentially subcontract the activities of experts who they mightn't for expertise that they might have within their group. We also provide these cascade grants, which are larger pots of funding. So we're running 2 of these during the lifetime of the project. One of them we recently awarded 3 projects, and the second one of the cascade grants is currently open. But I'll provide links to that at the end of these slides. And then finally, the project is also developing this RDA knowledge base, which is a suite of kind of tools and services, basically to improve the kind of usability of RDA outputs. I won't go into detail on that. We have a session coming up in a few weeks' time, which again I have a link to later, which will go into that in a lot more detail. So just focusing, as I said, now I'm going to focus mainly on the facilitation service. So what the facilitation service is essentially is a kind of hands-on practical service that was providing support to all different working groups sort of at each stage. So the service is available to all RDA working groups. So not just those who have been endorsed already or who have sort of already started up. It's available to those who are sort of within their life cycle, if they're close to the end, if they're right in the middle of it, or if it's a case that it's pre-endorsement, if the co-chairs of that group are sort of in the planning of their and putting together their case statement or statement of work, I should say, they're free to apply. The service itself was co-designed essentially with a few pilot demonstrator working groups very early on in the service. So we essentially kind of came up with the ideas for the service and what tasks and specific activities we would be performing, and kind of put them into practice, and that helped to sort of refine the services before we put them out as via the open calls to the rest of the community. And the decision on the groups we support and don't support is dependent on the RDA Tiger Selection Committee. So this is a committee of people from those consortia, the consortium partners, and also a number of external experts. Yeah, so basically the kind of general aim of the facilitation service is to kind of lower the barrier to start working group activity. So essentially to make it a little bit easier to get through that initial stage of setup of a group, of refining the ideas, of getting that idea down to a case state or a statement of work, and getting the requisite feedback and responding to that. We also provide what we're kind of calling quality of life improvements, so essentially support for the sort of organizational aspects of the working group. So taking some of that burden from co-chairs and working group members, and allowing them to focus on the actual work of the group itself, allowing it to run more efficiently and to essentially enhance the visibility as well of the activities. And when the group then, obviously when it's getting to the end of its life cycle, looking to produce its recommendations and possibly supporting outputs, we focus on kind of getting the maximum impact. Just as I'm sure a lot of you know, and as Hilary has mentioned already a few times, the vast majority of the work done within RDA is this volunteer work of people coming together to dedicate their time and expertise to these groups' activities. So we really want to kind of maximize that, and especially when they produce valuable outputs. Just a note or two on that, on the practical delivery of the of kind of how we go about delivering the service. So each group that we support has a dedicated facilitator, and this person kind of acts as a sort of hands-on connection between the working group, between the co-chairs and the members, between the group itself and the wider RDA community, and also kind of further afield as well. So oftentimes it is a case that the group will need to coordinate with external projects or external communities, that we kind of provide that sort of interface, and try and take some of that work away from co-chairs. And we also have a kind of service agreement essentially that kind of outlines this the remit of the service, so everyone's kind of quite clear. Even though we're working quite closely with co-chairs, typically everyone's quite clear from the outset what the service entails. Yeah, so the added value really of the service. So we've kind of had some ideas around when we first put the service together, about what the general aims of the service were and what the areas where we felt that we could add value. But as we've gone through the project, we have found that there are some tasks which are sort of more valuable, and co-chairs seem to not require more support, but sort of appreciate the support more. So we have, just looking at them, the kind of life cycle span of a group. So when we're talking about to do with the setup of a group, yeah, the support we provide around kind of statement of work development. So just the kind of practical aspects, the writing, organizing the writing of those, and also the kind of the review and the providing a little bit of feedback, sort of pre-tab submission, etc., and pre-community review submission seems to be appreciated. And we also kind of help a lot with identification of co-chairs and new working group members. So obviously, working groups have to adhere to pretty strict criteria around geographical diversity of co-chairs, so we can help identify new co-chairs where necessary. And we also help them with the kind of landscape analysis activity. We have a separate landscape analysis service, which we kind of connect the working groups to as well. And then when it comes to the sort of the work plan of the group, and when it's in its active phase, we obviously provide a lot of the organizational support and the documentation around kind of regular meetings and just keeping those communication pathways between co-chairs and members clear. And allowing people, so obviously it's a case that not every working group member can attend every group meeting, so we try to make it as easy as possible for people to, even if they're not in the room during meetings, that they can kind of contribute to the working group activity. And yeah, and that final point there, which is it looks like a small one, that's pretty important. We try and maintain the working group momentum throughout its lifespan. So even though 18 months seems like a pretty short time, it can go by fairly quickly. Yeah, and I'm just checking the time or where we are. And then obviously when the group is closing out, we look to kind of provide some support and guidance around the RDA endorsement process. and maximizing the impact of the group's work. Just the last thing on some of the impacts we've had with from Tiger. So we've supported 20 working groups so far. That's just the facilitation service. We've supported more again with the other support mechanisms. So that's including 11 groups who we've sort of supported from the very outset. So pre-statement of work approval. So we've got a lot of groups through that stage. We actually have 13 sessions, I was counting this morning, of working groups taking place at P24, which is positive. We also have mechanisms in place to gather feedback, so kind of formal mechanisms, and we also try to conversationally gather feedback as well, and we've by and large it's been positive. So it does make it easier to provide this support when we know that it seems to be appreciated and the value of it is evident. And we're also looking to produce a few collateral materials as well towards the end of the project, things that we'll be able to the community will be able to access and put into use beyond the end of the Tiger project itself ending. I'm conscious of the time, and I know, Rob, we're both tight on time, so I'll skip. This is my penultimate slide, but I won't go into details on this. But there is a few activities taking place later this week. We do have a session taking place tomorrow afternoon on a particular task that we're working on at the moment with Tiger. There are also a few calls and Cascade grant type things open at the moment. There is QR codes and there's all links to these on the RDA website if you just navigate to the Tiger page. So yeah, I will, at the interest or at the risk of overstaying my time, I'll hand over to Rob, and I'll be on the chat there. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free to fire them my way. And thanks again for giving me the time here to present.
Thanks, Ryan. Thank you very much. And also, of course, to the funder, the European Commission, which I know we're grateful for facilitating this also because, I mean, it's important to note that the funding can go to, in fact, people who are not just in Europe in many cases. And this really adds value to the Research Data Alliance. Rob, your turn.
Sure, and I don't have slides. I'm just going to talk here, and thanks, Ryan. I think he said a lot of the groundwork. But Tigris is basically the U.S. version of Tiger. It's a mini version, and it really focuses on facilitating activities in the U.S. It directly leveraged the Tiger project operations and goals. So the things that Ryan just said are very much true for Tiger. However, Tiger is much slower. We have a capacity of facilitating a maximum of 3 working groups. The idea was to expand this when funding was identified. At this point, that funding hasn't been identified. So we are still seeking that. To give perspective, Tiger is currently facilitating over 20 groups, as Ryan just said. And while we have capacity for the 3 groups, at this point we've only identified 2, and I'll talk about each of those groups. The 2 groups that we've been associated with so far are the National PID Strategies Working Group and the Machine Actionable Data Management Plans Working Group. Currently, the Machine Actionable Data Management Plan Group is in a development.
Sit in on the session.
I'm sorry, was there a question? Okay. So the Machine Actionable Data Management Plan Group is in a development phase, and we plan to re-engage with them after this period. But right now, there's not a whole lot of facilitation happening. Tigris is keeping the RDA US, of course, aware of that development and what's going on there, but there's very little facilitation going on now. We also provided a variety of facilitation services to the National PID Strategies Working Group, including editing and publishing of video series and creating some other dissemination materials. We also got that group, we have a joint group with them now in NISO, or the National Information Standards Organization, and we're working towards a NISO standardization process. The process will take about a year, and while RDA US Tigris is observing that group, we're a participant in that group, but there's, again, not a whole lot of work happening there. And as I said, we've not identified a 3rd group at this point. The attempt to facilitate these working groups in RDA US shows a few challenges with a smaller scale attempt of Tiger. And that is that RDA activities have a natural ebb and flow. Groups need facilitations at certain times in their life cycle, in their life cycle. And if you facilitate groups on a scale of 20, like tiger, this evens out. However, with 2 groups, if they're both on kind of that ebb cycle, then that leaves the tigress group not doing a whole lot of activity. In the RDA community overall, Tiger is accepting most groups that need facilitation, meaning that Tigris is working with efforts that are US only. We had hoped this would be a little bit larger and we'd be able to work with some working groups that had US interests but were international working groups. But at this point, that hasn't happened. And there's not a whole lot of room for additional facilitation effort after what the Tiger program is putting forth. A more practical kind of thing is that the Tigris is funded by Indiana University, and there's no guaranteed funding after December of 2025. We're thinking this pilot may come to an end. We're hoping to get some facilitation. The reason I don't have slides is because I've been writing a grant for the past month or so. Hillary, see your inbox for a letter of collaboration request if you haven't. I know you're super busy this week, but if you could take some time for that, that would be great. So my goal here is not to sound down about Tigris' future, merely realistic. I think there is still a possibility to find funding before the end of the year. I also think that the work done with NISO is a model for how RDA can become involved in the standardization process. And I hope to see more of these joint working groups with standardization organizations worldwide. Finally, we still can provide facilitation services until December. So if there are any working groups with at least one co-chair from the US that need some services and some hands-on skills or hands-on facilitation in the processes that Ryan described, please contact me and let me know. And I will wrap up there. And I see we're only a few minutes late. So thank you, Hillary.
No worries, thank you. I thought I sent that letter to you. I'm just going to have to send it back. I have done it. I don't know where I didn't send it. Anyway, but this is a really, so we're going to close it up now, but I just wanted to note that actually ending on this note just highlights something quite valuable about the RDA is this different geographical perspectives as well, right? And also how in one region a certain thing works, but in another it's a little more challenging because of the constructs, but it's also very good to understand that and to be able to share it. So the start was, of course, how the model is a good one, but then it has to be regionally, if you like, supported, but also modified. So I'm going to leave you on that note. I am going to thank all the people who presented and spoke today, to all of you for coming. The slides, as my wonderful Irina, our global events manager, who doesn't actually go to sleep. She's like a little bot, you know, little AI bot, an AI Irina, who has already put the slides online, and the recordings will be there soon. And I hope you enjoy the rest of the plenary. We will see each other somewhere in some virtual room at some time. But again, you're most welcome. And thank you all for flying the RDA flag, which at this moment in time is a very important flag to fly. And I wish you a wonderful continuation of your day, or whatever, or evening, whatever that might be. Goodbye.
Thank you.